Welcome back to Spotlight by the Intelligence. I'm here with Are You Up, aka Ryan, in the flesh. How you doing today, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
It's a pleasure. Now, I want to personally vouch for Ryan. He's a good friend of mine, and I'm really excited for this talk right now. Ryan, why don't you give viewers a little bit of your history?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm Ryan. Go by Are You Up? I started DJing about 2 years ago and decided that I wanted to start producing music, mostly from the encouragement of my close friends. They were always getting together and mixing, and I kind of got jealous. So, we've been going to raves and stuff for quite a while. I'm from Utah, and I moved to Salt Lake in 2014 and kind of started going to shows around Salt Lake then. And it was a long progression before I decided, I actually think I want to do this seriously and I want to take it serious. But yeah, over the last year is when I started playing live shows in Salt Lake and have also just been diving really deep into Ableton, trying to learn as much as I can with producing. Mostly do kind of trickle along tech house and bass house, but I do like try and produce some other stuff too. I have some like 140 deep dub tracks I've been working on and want to definitely get into like some more trap heavy tracks as well. But yeah, it's been a long journey, but honestly, it's brought me a ton of fulfillment, a ton of happiness, and I love doing it. And that's a big reason why I take it so serious. And I have like had a lot of progression over the last year for sure. So yeah, I mean, I could dive in way deeper. Me and Aaron were joking yesterday that I could start with my birth and be like, oh yeah, I was born here and my parents this. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like where my progression, like I started my Instagram just over a year ago and like decided to get real serious about it. Me and Aaron met at SLDP, which is Salt Lake DJ and Production. And after I did that, it kind of gave me the confidence of like, hey, like I'm playing on the club standard equipment, I'm DJing, I'm feeling confident about what I'm doing. And then I just started trying to play live shows and kind of started out with like doing real small stuff at a bar called Boomerangs downtown. There's a local collective called Electronic Continuum that's awesome and has given a lot of kind of small locals their first shot. So super grateful to them for having done that. And over the last year, it's really progressed a lot to where I was playing at that bar. I got lots of content. That's something I've been really intentional about is every time I play a show, I try and get a lot of content and I try and get pictures, videos, and I try and be real vocal online about my presence. And it's gone from playing the small bars like for free to now having played at Sky, which is kind of the biggest commercial club in Salt Lake City. Played there a few times, opened for artists like Autograph, Abstract and Chill. And I have another show coming up with Arco in February, which is, a big one. They're an awesome duo. And just last weekend, I played up in Park City at the premier club up there called the Marquee during the Sundance series, which was called High Altitude. It was put on by Insomniac Events. And I got the chance to open for Dylan Francis. So yeah, crazy progression to have like, I literally went last year just as a fan, and I went and saw Millennium, and then it pretty much exactly a year later to have opened or actually played direct support. Even I played direct support for Dylan Francis, and so I mean, yeah, just a crazy progression. And honestly, looking back on it over a year, it's like sometimes I don't even believe like how much I actually did over the last year. So yeah, I mean, it's really been awesome. Salt Lake is a great place. I feel if you're into the music scene, if you're into electronic music. There's tons of like-minded producers, tons of people that are awesome DJs, and I have just met a ton of really great friends over the last year.
There was so much there I want to unpack. So I'm gonna do my best to try and like identify stuff that I feel like would help other people and ask about it. But first, I feel like a little bit of context. Where were you at, and what was your music and interest or interest in music before you really started to quote unquote take it seriously, like you mentioned?
Yeah. I mean. There's a pretty vibrant EDM scene in Salt Lake City. So like a lot of what I was doing was going to kind of the big festivals out here. There's a promoter company called V2 and they put on really big festivals. Like they're called DOS Energy is probably the biggest one that they do out near the Salt Flats. And yeah, a lot of artists that come through, like the biggest names in EDM you can imagine, Dead Mouse, Cascade, all the biggest names. They all come through for that, or have in the past. And it's, yeah, just a really cool experience. And so like, I was just a big fan of all the music before. Like, it's kind of funny to see where I'm at now. Like, my musical tastes have kind of completely transformed. And I feel like me in general, I kind of am a transformative person where year over year, it's almost like I'm a different person each year. And I feel like my musical tastes have definitely followed along with that as well. Like back, in like 2018, 2017, I was like a huge Millennium fan, huge like melodic dubstep. Like I love dubstep. I was like, Excision, fuck yeah, like he's awesome. And then like, now a few years later, it's like I'm big house head. Like, pretty much everything that I'm listening to is like a lot of bass house, a lot of kind of more interesting bass heavy house music. But yeah, there's a lot of roots to like where I kind of started with listening to music. And I originally got introduced to like EDM back when I was like in high school. I had some friends that would like go to raves, and they would like, they would go for the drugs basically, but they kind of introduced me to like hardstyle, trance, DJ Josh Guru, the Tweakas, like kind of some interesting music like that I really don't listen to a ton anymore, but I still have a ton of appreciation for. And then when I moved to Salt Lake and kind of became more mature, was 21, old enough to go out to the bars and clubs, like it really evolved to where I was really listening to a lot of everything, and having seen so many amazing acts in Salt Lake City definitely was a huge inspiration. And I can still remember moments of just being at like I went to Decadence in Colorado for 2018, 2019, saw Millennium. And, a lot of my thought at the time I was like, oh, I would love to be in this industry. It wasn't even really like, I want to be a DJ, I want to be on stage. It was like, this is such a cool industry. Like the people that do this are just having fun. And it's like, I want to be able to like do something like this with my career. And I'm nowhere close to like doing that. I'm a software developer, so I do like a full-time job in like tech right now, and have been for the last like 7 years. But yeah, like I think that was kind of my initial motivation, was just like, I want to be a part of this. And then what happened really was like, I started DJing and I was like, holy shit, this is so fun. Like I have so much fun with this. And there was kind of this like confidence block where it went from like, oh, like, I just want to be part of this, to like, oh, like, actually, I think I could be on the stage as well. And so I think that that's like where a big part of that transformation came from. And, to circle back even a little bit more, right out of high school, I played in a band. We were kind of like a surf rock, indie rock band in Provo, and I played the bass guitar. So like I've been doing musical stuff for quite a while. Like I always kind of considered myself a singer-songwriter. I've always had an acoustic guitar. I've always like kind of strummed around. My mom like tried to get me to play piano when I was younger. So I've had like, kind of a base understanding of musical theory and music in general for a long time, since I was a kid. And now it's like kind of like the technical ability I've learned from software developing and being a coder, and then being introduced to Ableton and being like, oh, wow, like there's more to this than just being like, creative. And like creative is a huge aspect of it, but there's also a big technical aspect to it. And I feel like that technical aspect, like, really entranced me. And I was like, wow, like if I can learn Ableton just like I learned how to code, then I could basically make whatever I want. And that's something that's really kept me motivated to like continually work at it. Is like my ultimate goal is like, I want to sit down at the computer, I want to just create, and I want to create anything that my mind can imagine, basically.
So how did you bridge that gap? You paint this picture of a very enthusiastic and involved EDM fan. It's like, I can relate. I also did the festival circuit back in the day, and also wanted to be a part of the community. It's worth mentioning. It's like, I've been to metal shows, rap shows, country music shows, and the electronic music scene is by far the most welcoming. Like you enter it and just immediately feel like a sense of almost like massive pseudo family, just like a connection 100%. To the people around you. And it makes sense to want to be involved in it. So you observe like these artists doing stuff that you respect, and this technical aspect of the music that like when you start to really study it and observe it goes infinitely deep. How did you enter that? How did you begin to start making music?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I was kind of reluctant to it at first. I had friends who were doing it for like a good couple of years before like I finally sat down and did Ableton. And like a big part of that was my friend Andy. He was like, dude, you have to get Ableton. He literally gave me a license and was just like, I'm going to give you this. You don't have to do anything for it just because I want to hear what you would make. And I think that that definitely like kind of pushed me over the edge of like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to really try and figure this out and really do it. And so like I think a lot of it comes from like my friends and like being influenced by them of like seeing the enjoyment that they were having out of it and seeing what they were doing with it really motivated me to be like, yeah, I want to do this as well. And then it was like a big shift once I actually tried, because it was almost like there was like kind of this barrier before where I was like, no, that's not me. Like I don't really do that. But then it's like once I actually tried it and kind of got deep into it, it was like I had so much fun. And then on top of that, like all the connections I started making and all the people that I started making, like the social aspect definitely has been a huge motivator for me. And right around the time, like a few months after I had gotten Ableton, then there was this event that popped up in Salt Lake called the Artist Invitational. Shout out Zach Aaronston. And they do it every month. And it's like, bring a track. Doesn't even matter if it's finished. Doesn't matter where it's at. Bring your track. Let's listen to it in a club on loudspeakers, and let's give you feedback. And so I think that that definitely has kept me on the keyboard like almost every single day, trying to just create, knowing that like, oh, next month I have to have a track that's ready to show. And so I think that like that definitely has been a big motivation as well. But yeah, like the kind of bridging the gap, it's almost like a hard thing to explain, right? Because it's like I don't really have an answer of like what gave me the confidence to just start doing it. It's like I did it and then I just all of a sudden had the confidence to like keep going and keep trying and keep getting better and better. And I think also like as I've gotten a little older in life too, I'm 30 now, and it's like I kind of feel more like I want to share with people like what I enjoy and what I'm passionate about. And it's sort of like the scariness of it kind of dissipated. And it was like, you know what? Like, I don't even care if people think I suck or whatever. Like, I just want to do it because I want to share it. And I want to be a part of this, and I want to make stuff basically.
Cool. So there's two directions I want to take this in. One is like a little bit of a crack under the hood. And when I talk to my lo-fi friends from the internet, we get deep into the technicals. I'm like, what program are you using? What VSTs are your go-to? What's your process of building a track? But there's also the social element that you mentioned that I'd really love to dig into, because one thing in particular that drew me to you was your capabilities as a networking wizard. I have seen this guy make social connections at a rate that is unprecedented for people that I talk to and hang out with. So I would like to touch on both those topics. What do you feel like is more important to you?
Yeah. So like it's actually it's kind of a nuance there. It's a nuanced question and a nuanced answer, right? It kind of depends on what you want to do. Like I feel like with DJing, like being social is maybe like even more important than like having, I mean, the technical abilities. Like technical abilities are important, but at the end of the day, like if you choose really good songs and you connect with your crowd, like sometimes all you have to do is just press play, you know? And so it's like being a DJ, like going out and meeting the right people is like kind of the biggest way that I've gotten booked, and like making those connections. And I think like we've talked about it before, but I think social media is like a huge part of it, especially in Salt Lake City, Instagram, and like kind of showing face and like having people see you and be reminded of you and know that you're like active and you're serious in the scene. And so I feel like on the DJ side, like if you want to be a local DJ, like the social aspect of it is a huge part. And like you can get really far as a DJ just by knowing the right people, putting out great content on social media, and showing that like you have people that are going to come to your shows. There's people that want to come hang out with you. And like I think that, you know, a big part of being a local DJ is just that. But I also think that like on the technical side, if you, yeah, obviously there's people who ghost produce. And so it's like, yeah, you could like maybe hire some great ghost producer and just be a social person and get really far with that. Like, you know, of course, a lot of people, one that people will say is like Fisher, right? And it kind of makes sense. Like he was a pro-am surfer. Like he was a really popular guy before he was a DJ. And then he became a DJ. And then, you know, everyone says Chris Lake ghost produce all this stuff. And so, I mean, I think that there is that aspect to it where it's like you can find success without being a super technical Ableton user. But I think that, like, for me personally, like I would never like have somebody ghost produce one of my tracks and then like put it out as my own. Like I'd be happy to collab with someone, and maybe someone else does like a lot of the work, but like we're collabing and we're making a song together. We're both coming up with the ideas. And I think that that's great. But I think that, like, if you want to go really far as a producer and as an actual artist, like being really technical and understanding your sound and having a really identifiable sound will get you so much further, especially if people start connecting to your music. Like I kind of like, I'm chronically online. I study people, right? Like one guy that I've been watching a lot recently is Odd Mob. And I love watching his DJ sets because they're full of energy. He has amazing tracks. And the thing is, whenever I hear an Odd Mob edit, an Odd Mob song, there's something very particular about his music that it's like, wow, that's Odd Mob. Like I know that guy, like those growls and all of the syncopated bass sounds that he does. It's like, yeah, that's like an Odd Mob song. And so I think, like, if you want to be a really great artist who's revered and people look up to your work and your art, then the technical aspects are a million times more important. Like there's plenty of people who I think are fantastic producers, make amazing music, and probably don't get out and play very many shows. And that's probably just because it's not their priority. But I also think that, like, there is a balance to be had. Like if you're just in your bedroom making the best songs in the world, but you're never putting them out to the world, you're never trying to network with labels, you're not networking with other people who are successful in the industry, I still think you can only get so far. And that's like, I think, like a lot of what I think about right now is like, what are the labels that I want to be put on? Who are the artists that I look up to right now? And how can I get closer to making a unique sound that would vibe with the type of music that they're putting out? And I think that, like, some of the people that are like, we saw RL Grime last night, Sable Valley. I think that, like, Knock 2, ISO, like what they're doing with their sound and their music, the reason it's blown up and it's connected with so many people is because it's amazing music to begin with. Like, you listen to it and there's some sort of quality that I can't even totally put my finger on. That's just like, wow, these guys know what they're doing. They are making banger after banger track. And I don't think that you just get that by like not putting in the work. Like, I think that those guys, you know, are slaving over their computers, like figuring out how to make their sound. And so I think, like, to kind of tie up the question, both are super important. It depends on what your goals are. And I think that that's a big thing. Like, knowing what your goal is what you can decide to focus on. And so my personal goal right now is like keep developing my skills, because as a producer, like, I'm still early in it. Yeah, I've been in Ableton for about 2 years making tracks pretty consistently. But the people out there that are like the best in the world, Skrillex, you know, a lot of other artists have been doing it for, it's like 20 years now. And so it's like, I think that the technical side of things is like 100 times more important if you want to go to like the superstar level of like someone who's a highly revered artist, I would say.
So in other words, the technical skill is what's required to level up, and the social adeptness is what's required to fully connect with people who are going to give you those opportunities. You said something about the social media aspect that really stuck out to me, where you said that you watch people's moves that you respect and like what they're doing and study them. What inspired you to I guess what grabs your attention in a person, and when you study them, what does that mean?
Yeah. What grabs my attention is a good question, because I feel like I definitely like I said earlier, like I'm kind of always changing, and like kind of constantly my attention is being moved. Like I wouldn't consider myself like an ADHD person necessarily. But like I definitely can switch like who I'm focused on it really quickly. Like, you know, 1 year my favorite, like back in like 2019, maybe my favorite artist was like, I don't know, like Marshmello or like Illenium. And then a year later, I'm like, wow, like I listened to his music a lot. I mean, I don't even know about it as much. it's like, wow, maybe I'm like really into RL grime now and really into kind of these trap sounds. And I feel like there's like a certain aspect to it that like I see people that are like pushing forwards a genre, especially nowadays, and have like a sound that's really unique. And that's really what grabs my attention. Like I feel like Odd Mob, for example, like he's really pushing the boundaries of what tech house is. And like there's a lot of people out there that are kind of doing the minimal, the deep, and like no offense to them, but a lot of it sounds very, very similar, very much the same a lot of the times. But then you listen to a guy like Odd Mob and it's like, wow, he's like pushing this. And you see a lot of other people out there that are kind of going in tow with him. They're like, wow, I want to do exactly what he's doing. And so I feel like a lot of times those types of artists are what really grabs my attention. Same with like ISO Knock and like Knock 2 and ISO XO. I feel like those guys are really pushing that boundary of like bass house trap. It's like almost like they can combine those two genres like better than anybody else out there, I think, right now. And as far as like the studying aspect, like I definitely am on YouTube watching live sets very frequently, especially, I mean, I would say less so now because I just am so racked with time. I have like no time to sit down and watch a 2-hour set. But like when I first started DJing, I was very much listening. I have like a tap tempo app on my phone. I literally like, as they're playing songs, I'll tap the tempo, figure out what BPM they're playing. And then I'll also like pay really close attention to transitions and be like, how did they go from this song to that song? And so it's interesting, like nowadays when I'm at a concert, like I still really enjoy myself and I find myself falling into the music and not paying attention to anything besides enjoying myself and dancing. But then there's other times where it's like I'm literally keying into every single transition that they're doing, paying really close attention to like how they're leading the crowd and sort of also the overall story that they're trying to tell with their sets. And so I think that that's definitely like a big thing that I've tried to replicate is that when I'm building out my playlists, my sets, especially for big shows, because when I'm playing a small show, I might just freestyle it. I might have a good playlist that I know has really great tracks and that I've mixed before, like practicing. But if I'm doing like a big show, I'm going to plan out the vast majority of it, if not all of it. And so I'll get really deep into like, hey, this is how I want to transition. This is how from the 10-minute mark, I want to bring the energy to this level. And then this is how I want to take the energy up. And then I want to figure out how do I take it back down? Like where in my set do I give people a breather? Where in my set do I try and actually connect with people? And so I think a lot of like the studying is trying to like pick out those key aspects of what other artists are doing. And also a lot of paying attention to like the different genres, how they're building out their sets. Like going and seeing someone like RL Grime is like very different than going and watching somebody like who else did we see recently? Like I mean, even like Dylan Francis's set during Sundance, there was a bunch of artists that came through, and it's really interesting to like listen to like an RL Grime set versus a Dylan Francis set. And I feel like it like now more than ever, it's really easy for me to pick out kind of like the particulars of what's different between their sets and between their music. And I think that like we also went to Levity recently, and also guys that are really on the up and up and on the come up. And it's just really interesting. Like all three of those sets were very, very different. And I can see the pull of anybody that's watching them. Maybe not even like the majority, I'd say definitely the majority of people that are watching, they don't even know why necessarily they love it. Besides that, it's a party, it's fun, it's awesome. The lasers are sick, the lights are sick, the music's great. But it's like, I can like look at RL Grime's set and I'm like, okay, he just took one of his original tracks and he played 2 different edits all in one. So it's like he played 3 tracks all in one. He took one like popular sing-along edit, mixed that into his smack talk, and then he drops it down, drops out another edit, and then he takes that edit and builds it back into smack talk. And so it's like looking at those like little details is like really interesting to me and kind of really breaking it down. And I find myself, more often than not, like getting into that mode, but also like now, like I try to really get myself out of that mode sometimes and just be like, I'm here to have fun and like enjoy too. Like, and I'm a fan above anything else. And even if I wasn't DJing, I wasn't producing, I would still be at this show, like enjoying the music and trying to connect with people and make friends. So yeah, I think like the studying thing is definitely like, it's important. I think especially for anyone who's a new DJ, like listen to a ton of different sets, figure out what's unique about it, and then take that and figure out what you want to do and what you like and what you want to bring to your music. I think.
Beautiful answer, honestly. The attention to detail and the deconstruction of what other people doing, I think, is slept on. Like in fact, the tap out the tempo meter measurements is insane. I've never heard of anybody studying somebody else's set to that level before. So it's impressive. I can see it starting to pay off. And I guess my question for you would be, based upon what you've seen, like both in actually playing shows and in deconstructing other people's shows, if somebody were to just start out and they have the talent, but they lack the social connections to get established, how would you recommend they go about going from point A to point B?
I feel like some of it comes kind of easy to me, and like I don't even think about it. But also, like, I am very intentional, and like I've told Aaron this before, but like I'm as intentional enough that like I have a big list of names and DJs that it's like I want to keep track of these people. And when I see them, like I want to remind them that I know who they are. Even if they don't remember me, like I want to remind them like, hey, I know you, like I know your name and I follow you and like I'm a fan. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't consider very much is like how far it goes to show other people that you're genuinely interested in what they're doing. And that might be intentional. And to some people, they might be like, oh, that's kind of like you're a fake or like, but like at the end of the day, like I am genuinely that person. Like I love other people's music. I love being a supporter of other people around me. And so I think that that's the first place to start. And even if like you don't feel like you're social, like I feel like sometimes you just have to push through it for sure. And like I'll give like a really specific concrete example. Like I talked about a year ago, I went to Sundance and I went to Millennium. And I got there really early, right as doors opened. And there's a prominent manager in the local scene named Chase. And I followed him on Instagram. I had been following him for like 6 months. He posts a lot about music. He manages some prominent DJs and producers around Salt Lake City. He has a lot of those connections. And I was nervous. I'll be honest. I was like nervous about it, but I was like, that's Chase. I know he is. I've never met him in my life, but I'm going to go introduce myself and just tell him like, look, I follow you on social media. Like I appreciate what you do. And I think that it's awesome. So I just wanted to come say hi and like introduce myself basically. And like, maybe, yeah, I did that with the thought of like, oh, this is a good connection to make. But it also is just from a genuine place of like, I want to meet this guy. I think what he's doing is really cool. And the same thing happened with Black Void too, who are like some of my favorite people in the world. They are a local after party promoter here in Salt Lake City. I'd say kind of definitely the very coolest like underground after show out of anything that happens in Salt Lake. They play at all secret locations. They have secret lineups. It's all BYOB. It starts at 11. It runs until 4 a.m. It's like for the culture. And I've been following those guys. Like I had been going to shows at Black Void since 2019. I met a kid that I coded with, and he introduced me to like going to Black Void shows. And ever since then, I've just kind of been a mega fan. And it's like every time I know a Black Void show is going on, I do everything in my power to be able to like go and make it to their shows. And I wasn't totally sure like who ran Black Void or like what it was, but then I used my chronic onlineness and like I found out who the leaders of Black Void were. And one day when I was at one of the Black Void shows, I wasn't sure if it was one of them. I knew it was a guy who worked with Black Void, and I went up and I just introduced myself, and I was like, and I told him like, dude, I've been coming to these shows. This was in 2024, so I mean it was just last year, and I was like, I've been coming to these shows for 5 years, and like I love what you guys are doing. I am literally obsessed. All completely true. And from there, it was like we made this like genuine connection, and he was like, oh, dude, that's really dope, and like. I told him because Black Void was like a huge part of what inspired me to like actually start DJing. I had been kind of messing around with it with my friends, like I had said. And then not last summer in 24, but in 23, they did a summer block party. And it was just an all local lineup. And I got really inspired after that because I was like, wow, these are just like local people here in Salt Lake putting together these awesome shows. Like, I really, really want to be a part of this. And then from there, I just like kept taking it serious, did SLDP. And then once I finally felt like I think I could actually perform live and I could play a show, then I made the steps to like go and like introduce myself and kind of break past that point. And I know for like people that don't feel social and feel introverted, that's something that is probably feels really intimidating and hard to do. But like what I would say is that if you are like a fan of what they're doing and you have this like genuine connection, it's really easy to talk about it. You just tell them like, I love this. Like, I think it's awesome. And you tell them why you think that and like why you like it. And then also like you kind of have unlimited stuff to talk about. Music, because, you know, we're huge fans of music. And even if you're an introverted like person, like I think like if you're passionate about music, I bet if you're in a one-on-one situation with somebody, you could probably talk about music and chop it up for like a long ass time if it's all about music, you know? And so I think that's kind of like the mentality that I tell people is like great to take. It's like, be very open to like other people and other people's experiences, and like be willing to learn from other people about why they love the same thing that you love. And then it's going to be really easy to connect with other people, I think.
So it starts from a place of mutual interest and eventually escalates to a point of mutual benefit. I think anyone who would accuse you of being illegitimate because you have maybe a goal in mind, or like, you know, are looking out for your long-term best interests by pursuing a genuine interest and telling them about it, I think they are probably struggling to break through and make those connections, right? I think that you can have it both ways in the scene, right? It's like you can make real friends, you can make real connections with people, and also propagate your own career, because when you make good friends in the industry, they want to help you out.
Yeah. And that's a great way to put it. Like, you know, a mutual interest that evolves into a mutual benefit. And because I think that like that's a big part of like with Black Void too. Like I have volunteered to go just help them set up, to go help them tear down. Like, you know, those guys are doing it for the culture. They're not making a big buck off of every show. Like they need people to like volunteer to help them out, so that it's not 3 guys just spending 8 hours like tearing down a big set and getting it all cleaned up. And so that was one of the first things that like I initiated, was like, hey, I want to come help you guys out. Like I want to come volunteer, and like I would love to just be more involved. So like I will come help you set up, and I will come help you tear down after the show. And I think that type of like willingness to like give some of that mutual benefit between each other is huge. And like I know that those guys are like super grateful for that, and that makes like a big difference in like fostering this connection of like mutual benefit, like you're saying.
You said something else that stuck out to me, which was I went to SLDP in order to be able to get good at this, so that way I could come back to these people and be like, hey, I have what you need now. So I guess, how did you identify that gap in your knowledge or experience? And when you did identify it, why SLDP? How did you find it? How did you solve the issue of not feeling like you were good enough?
Yeah. I don't know. First of all, I'll say I don't know if I'll ever solve that issue.
Real.
Like I think that's a very human thing, to feel like not good enough, or like, wow, like I'm not worthy of this, because we put people on a pedestal. And you know, I definitely have done that. Like I still to this day, I see people play at Black Void, or I see people play at any other club, and I'm like, damn, they are amazing. Like how am I ever going to be awesome like they are? And so I think that's like a very human thing. And like, if anybody isn't feeling like that, then they have a lot of confidence, and kudos to them. But I like SLDP in particular, like a big thing that like motivated me was like, I wanted to play on CDJs. I had like a Flex 4, you know, just one of the $300 controllers that you hook up to your laptop. And I was messing around with that for a few months, and like, it was good. And we were having a lot of fun. But I was like, I wasn't even using Rekordbox. I was using Virtual DJ. And like, I mean, the gap of knowledge, it's like, I didn't even understand how much I didn't understand. And so I think that like SLDP definitely like put like ingrained in me some really important things, and gave me like this sort of foundation to really build off of. Now, I don't think that it's impossible to get that anywhere else. Like I think that like I probably could have found a one-on-one mentor if I would have kept looking into it and kept trying to go further. Like I think that there's lots of one-on-one mentors who could do a great job teaching you as well. But a big motivating factor for me was like, I want to play on CDJs. Like I have this like crappy DJ deck. Like I want to actually go play on the real thing. And so I went in and like did a tour, and the guy who runs it, Derek, he like kind of showed us everything, was like, here's the CDJs. And I sort of just like frothed at the mouth. And I was like, yes, I want to play on those so bad. And so I signed up, and I feel like I kind of signed up at a lucky time where like it was just me, my buddy Cameron, and then one other homie, Jermaine, who I didn't know before, but I'm now homies with. And it was just the three of us in the class. And I feel like I got a lot of opportunity because like Derek was our main instructor, and he's the type of guy that just talks. He can go on for hours. And so I got a lot of opportunity to just really pick his brain, dig into everything, and ask him a ton of questions. And so I think that really definitely was beneficial. But I think that like there are some foundational things that you have to be able to know in order to play live shows. You have to understand how to operate the equipment. And I think that is hugely important. And also like there's nothing worse than like going to play a show and like having an issue and having no idea how to fix it. And so I think like I've spent a lot of time digging into like any sort of technical issues with the CDJ and everything about the CDJ. I've probably pushed every single button on a CDJ 1,000 times. And so I think that like having that technical knowledge is really important. And also like in certain situations can bring you a lot of respect. Like if there's a problem that like could prevent the show from going on, but you can stand up there and you can fix it and you can figure it out, like that gives you kudos. Like people definitely respect that. And so I think that like that definitely was huge. And then also like I think second is like understanding the music, like and how to like organize your music in a logical manner, and how to like make sure that when you are playing, you have the least roadblocks possible. Like one thing that I do is I normalize for my DJ sets. I normalize all of my tracks to the same LUFS, and I do everything to -10 because modern music everything is above -10, and so I'll take it down to -10 so that everything is at the exact same level. And if I want, I can mix a really big crazy trap song with like a deep minimal tech house song if I wanted to, because like and you know without having to adjust the gain, because if you wanted to, you can do it all manually, and like you can load up a track, test out its levels, see where it's hitting on the dB on the mixer, and then adjust your gains so that they're at equal volumes. But like in a live performance, it's just so much easier to know that like I can put the gain at one spot, it's at the right volume, and then I never have to worry about adjusting that during my entire set, because like all of the songs, the peak energy is all going to be at the same level. And so I think like little things like that really help you have a really smooth set and be able to focus on the things that I think are the most important. Like I don't think that adjusting your gain to the exact level is like the most important thing you can do on your DJ set. Like I think some of the most important things are like having great energy and connecting with the crowd, and like reading the crowd and understanding when like you need to hype them up for the next drop, or understanding when maybe you even need to cut the track and go into something different. And like if you're sitting there adjusting your gain the whole time, like you can easily miss out on those cues. And so like I try to prioritize the things that like I think are going to make a difference in the experience, because I also like I want to put the fans, I say the fans, they're not my fans, they're just like the people at the show, like the people at the show first, because I want them to have an awesome experience. I don't want them to, be like, feel like I'm up there kind of just fiddling around on knobs rather than enjoying myself dancing and trying to like hype people up. And I feel like that's like when I'm a fan, like, maybe now at 30, not as much, but like I am one of the hypest people in the crowd, like, and definitely more so when my body was like killing it and it was easier. But like, I love getting really into the music, getting hyped up when there's a crazy drop that happens, when there's a really sick ID or like an awesome edit I've never heard. I love like looking at my friends and being like, yo, that was crazy. Like I've never heard that before. And so like I want to like give that same experience to everybody else who's out in the crowd. And so I think understanding all the small technical things and basically removing all of the roadblocks that can prevent you from doing that, like I think that that's really important. And I feel like SLDP definitely helped me out with that a lot. But I would also say to anybody that's like looking to kind of take that step, it would be great to get a one-on-one mentor. And I feel like I've been really lucky and made a lot of connections that like I've been able to sit down with people, be it on Ableton, be it on CDJs, and have gotten some really great mentorship. And so like I think that like I can't emphasize enough like how important mentorship is in this game, because like if you're just always in your own head and like you're thinking one specific way, you might be doing something completely wrong and you have no idea. And so like having that sort of mentorship and someone to help guide your hand, or at least just even give you opinions, then I think that that's really important. And it kind of goes back to what I said earlier of being like open and being and wanting to learn and wanting to connect with other people. Like having a mentor that can teach you and help you get to the next level, I think is like extremely valuable. So if you are wanting to kind of take that next step, then yeah, like find someone in your local scene that you see is doing well and approach them about like, hey, I want to be your I would love for you to mentor me. And I still even like just a couple weeks ago, like I just cold emailed a producer that I really like, and I've heard him talk on Instagram how he mentors people, and I just cold emailed him and I was like, hey, I would love to have you mentor me. Like, and you know, part of that is like a financial thing. Like you have to pay for people to do that because they're giving you their time. But I think that like it's all an investment in yourself. And if you're willing to invest in yourself, other people are going to be willing to invest in you as well. And so I would say definitely like that's what SLDP was for me, is that like even, you know, whatever it was, it almost could have not mattered what it was. Like it was me doing an investment in myself.
I love it. I wanted to add some additional context here,
Yeah.
right? So I really like how your mind works in terms of strategy and planning, identifying a roadblock, figuring out a resolution to solve it. Because I kind of approached it from the other end. It's like I am as homegrown a producer as one could possibly be, like a dedicated student of YouTube University. But I was also very lucky in the sense that I had a mentor starting out. Shout out Mio Ray, Kevin, he's the man. He got me started in production, and likewise, Christian off the Electronic Dance Money podcast, who mixed and mastered my first EP for me. I learned a lot about those two respective areas of production and mixing and mastering from two people that mentored me. And you know, like I like the emphasis on what you said. Like those people deserve to be reimbursed for their time, right? Mentoring is not cheap. If you find somebody who will do it for free, never let them go.
Yeah, seriously.
But
yeah, I mean, at that point, are they a mentor or are they a friend? And because I feel like inherently, like a mentorship kind of relationship is like, you know, it's like a sensei. It's like there's someone to teach you, and so it's like you have to one, be willing to be humbled enough to be like, I know shit and you know everything. Like, let me suck knowledge out of you. And so I think that like there is like a serious like there's a relationship that should be respected between like a mentor and someone that wants to learn. And I think that even like, you know, someone who is a great mentor also has the same mentality that it's like, by me teaching you, I'm teaching myself as well. And you're teaching me too. And so I think that it's like a very symbiotic relationship if you make it that way.
Symbiotic. Okay. So I to backtrack a little bit, it's worth mentioning that SLDP is where I met Ryan, and I discovered it by complete happenstance. A local DJ who I had seen many times as openers for people back when I was on the festival circuit, Nate Lopez, dropped a Facebook
Same.
status post. You saw the same one?
That was exactly how I found out about it too.
Okay, so I was going to say, I thought you hunted SLDP down after discovering that you could stand to learn more about it. I'm glad we both found it spontaneously through the same.
So I would say like I was in the hunt. I was like in the hunt to get my hands on CDJs. I was like, I have to play on CDJs because I know if I can do that, like I can learn more. But then I saw Nate Lopez post on Instagram about it, and I literally sent it to Cameron and Andy and Craig and my friends who got me into DJing. And I was like, guys, I found it. Here it is. Like, let's go in there. They have CDJs. And then we all went in and did a tour. So yeah, that's really funny. I mean, that, and you know, I think that like they might not even consider how big that is to like kind of get that, like someone like Nate to do that, because I same thing, like I didn't know who Nate was or anything. Like I had never met him, but I had seen he's been doing shows here for years at this point. And so I had seen him probably 10 times before that, just as an opener or direct support or playing. So
definitely. And when you mentioned having discovered that, it's almost like training your algorithm to tee you up to find something like that because you're mid hunt. Because at the time that I discovered it, I was a very avid listener of like production, DJing, mixing and mastering podcasts. So I was kind of like putting it out to my AI robot monitoring my content that I was looking for that sort of thing.
The one good thing about them farming our data and having all of our data in the world is that, sometimes you do find what you want.
They know your desires better than you do.
Yeah, true. It's so true. It's crazy.
I wanted to talk about the financial aspect because you said this thing that I thought was super important about investing in yourself. Yep. What are some of the expenses that you've encountered? How would you recommend that somebody deals with it? Like what does it cost to build a career in music?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that like it's kind of interesting when I think about it too. Like I'm very lucky now that I've found a career that one I like and that pays me enough money to like, be able to actually invest in hobbies. Like I when I first graduated high school, like all I wanted to do was be an actor and, thespian. Like I did plays in college. I've been in some short films. I was like a supporting role in another big film in Salt Lake City one time. And like, all I wanted to do was be an actor, but I like got so entrenched in like, I have to make money and like, I have to get by and I have to live. And so it's almost like, I kind of like fizzled out on that passion because it takes, well, one, like to do a play takes so much time and there is absolutely no money in it, especially at the small level. And so it's like you're working a full-time job to be in a play that runs for 2 weeks and you don't make any money off of it. And so it was like at that time I just tried to figure out, okay, I have to focus on like living because my parents, they weren't really financially supporting me. I was completely supporting myself. And my parents have helped me out before. And I'm really lucky for that I have kind of like a safety net, I would say that like, even if I were to like lose my job or like some, God forbid, some tragedy happened and I was unable to work, like I kind of have this safety net. So I'm really lucky for that. And like, I would be remiss if I didn't mention how lucky I am for that. But like from the time I was like, I'd say 18 until I was about 25, 26, which is when I got into coding. Then like I had a lot of financial struggles. And like I did a lot of sales jobs, I did a lot of phone jobs, I did a lot of customer service stuff. I was a car salesman for a bit. And it was kind of difficult to get by for a long time until I found myself in coding and found myself doing software development. And it was like, and that was very intentional because I for a long time I was like, how can I work on my computer and just make money on my computer? Because I was on my computer constantly. Like I was, playing video games. I was like obsessed with YouTube. Like for a long time, I wanted to be a YouTuber. And I think that like once I found coding, it not only kind of gave me the confidence in life of like, wow, I can like do hard things and I can like kind of figure stuff out. But it also gave me the freedom to be able to have some money that I could invest in my hobbies. And that is, an unfortunate aspect of like getting into music is that like, if you want Ableton, it's not cheap. If you want a nice DJ controller, it's expensive as hell. And so I think that like, to begin with, like I was very lucky to be able to just start investing into those things right away. And like, as I said, I had like the Flex 4, that's like $300. And then I wanted to upgrade. So I bought the XDJ XZ, which is like Pioneer's standalone, which is a really nice controller. And I would say that like, if you're someone who wants to play in clubs, like having that controller at home will completely change your game. Like it'll make you way better at DJing if you can practice on that and practice without a computer. Like I know, especially open format guys, like they'll die hard the computer, Serato, use that. But if like you're like me and you want to play festivals and you want to play at clubs, like you want to play on CDJ 3000s. And so like you want to be a USB DJ and you want to be able to like work in the exact same way. And so having something like the XDJ XZ is going to give you that exact same type of experience, just, ever so slightly different. But like, I'm very confident that like, even if I didn't have CDJs now, like using an XZ can give you all of the same skills and the same abilities as like a CDJ. But I now like have a studio called The Space and it's here in Salt Lake. And I started an LLC, and with that LLC, I bought CDJs, and I bought an A9 mixer. I have two CDJ 3000s, a DJM A9, and a CDJ 2000 Nexus 2, as well as like a nice sound system. And I did that like for a few different reasons. One, personal, because I wanted that setup. But two, also like I was like, I want to start a business that gives affordable access to the club standard equipment to anybody who wants to use it. And so that's why I did it through a business, because now I have like a website, and through word of mouth, there's like about 100 different DJs that have come through and used my studio. We rent it out for $25 an hour. And like by far, that is like the most affordable, easy access of anything in Salt Lake City. There's nothing like that in Salt Lake City. And so I like that you asked about the expenses, because I would say, still I am very much in the hole as far as like my investing versus how much money I've made from DJing. And it's funny because I have had a number of people ask me like, do you do this full time? And it's just like always kind of a chuckle to me, like, God, I wish, like that's the goal. But how can I possibly get there? And it's like, it's a long road. It's like, that is the ultimate goal, is like, yeah, I want to do music full time. And even if that means like being in the music industry, in the event industry, not just making money as an artist, like that's my goal too. And I think that like to have multiple different sort of your hands in the pot with multiple different things is makes that a lot easier. But yeah, I'd say that like a big thing for my investing as well that I want to talk about is like putting money into other people for content. And, I feel like that's kind of like a spicy word. Like people are like, oh, content, like I hate content and all this and all that. But when it comes down to it, it's like when I've been leveling up, it's like, I want to record all of that and I want to put it out there for other people to see so that they know how serious I take this. And so it's like, even when I was playing at that small bar at Boomerangs, like, and, maybe I was getting $50 to play. Sometimes I was playing for free. I would try and find local photographers, local videographers, and try and work out a deal with them. Like, hey, can you come shoot for $50 or can you come shoot for $100? And like, I would basically just take any of the booking fee that I'm getting and pay it to somebody else to capture the entire night. And I think that type of investment too is like really important. And I still do that to this day. Like if I'm playing a big show, then like it's almost guaranteed that I'm going to find a local videographer or photographer and I'm going to pay them either to get clips, to get photos, or even like to make a reel for me. Like I've had quite a few people like cut together content for me that then I go and post online. And I think that also is like an investment that people really should consider more. And that I think, especially if you're like brand new and you don't have anything on your Instagram, you don't have any photos or videos, like just pay somebody to come capture you. Or, if you're lucky enough, get someone who's a friend that's good at it, but make sure that it's someone who's going to actually like, put the effort in to get you good stuff, because you don't want to play like your biggest show ever. Like the first time I played at Sky, I paid like a whole camera crew to come out and basically record like the entire day and like basically did like a mini vlog of it. And that reel on Instagram has like 5,000 views and it had huge reach. Like, I mean, reaching like 1,500 people in Salt Lake City is like, it's big. Like that's a lot of people that are like in the music industry in Salt Lake City. And so I think that like, if you're someone who's like about to play one of your biggest shows, like it's totally worth it to invest in a photographer or a videographer and get them to get you like fantastic content.
No, I absolutely think you've nailed it with this idea of chronically reinvesting, right?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people play their first show and they're like, sick, I just made $50. Whereas like the next step up in thinking is like, I just made $50 that immediately got spent into the next investment that will secure me the next 3 shows. It's like, which one's more important, being able to spend that $50 or your next opportunity that's coming your way? You did a great segue into the Space, by the way. For the record, I want to say this is not a paid ad. I fully endorse the Space SLC. I practice there. It is dope as hell. Tell me more about that. Because the one thing I really liked is you identified this hole that existed, which was, as you put it, affordable access to studio level technology to play on.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, how did you conceive of this idea?
Yeah. Well, it kind of just started out as like me and my buddies, who I've already mentioned like 10 times, but Cameron, Craig, and Andy, like we wanted to get a space for us, like just a little studio that like we could go practice in. And I was going to just bring my XZ in there and we were going to set up like, I don't know, a cheap ass speaker setup or whatever. But then what it turned into is like, as I was looking at doing that, I had a friend who had been throwing shows and that had invited me out to play a few times that had like a dope setup. He had 2 3000s, a DJS 1000, an XDJ 1000 Mach 2, a DJMA 9 mixer. And right as I was looking into getting us a studio space just to rent out, he posted on Facebook that he was selling all his equipment. And I saw that without, he didn't even tell me. I just saw the Facebook post because I was like, still to this day, like I scour Facebook Marketplace and I'm like, CDJ. And so like I saw him post that and then I texted him. I was like, dude, you're selling this? Like, what the hell? And he told me, he's like, yeah, I'm moving into Mexico. And so like, I got to get rid of this stuff. And I was like, dude, do not sell it yet. I'm going to figure out how to buy that. Like, I want to buy that so bad. And I went to my wife and Karina, and I was like, can we buy this? Can we buy this? Can we buy this? You know, like cash out savings and like spend a ton of money. And she's like, no, there's no way. Like, that's so much money. There's no way we can do that. And so then I kind of pontificated on it a little bit. And part of it was from doing SLDP. They kind of have this program where you can rent out time if you're a student. And it's not cheap to go to that school. And so like, that's kind of one of the benefits of it. But I always kind of had the experience that it wasn't easy enough. And like, I would try and bring friends and it'd be like, no, you can only bring one person. Like, you can't bring anybody in there. Like, you can only have it at certain hours, no Saturday, no Sunday. And it was just kind of like, dang, like, I can't believe that there's nowhere in Salt Lake that offers this. And then on top of that, I had multiple people reaching out to me asking like, hey, can I come practice on your XZ? And it's like, yeah, come to my house, come to my bedroom and like hang out in my bedroom and practice on my stuff. Like, yeah, let's do it. And as that all kind of evolved, it just sort of turned into this perfect storm where it was like, wow, I could like invest into all this equipment. I can get a space that's affordable. I met a guy that's really, really awesome dude. And he has a rehearsal studio that's mostly metal bands. And so like, we'll go in there and there'll be like metal, like screaming, like crazy stuff. And I'm a fan of metal, and I've gone to many metal shows. And so like, no shade or anything like that is my point. But like, he has this rehearsal building that's all for like bands. And I was like, and he told me about it. I went in and I toured it, and it was pretty affordable. And I was like, okay, so I could get this space, I could get this equipment, and then all I have to do is kind of figure out the other stuff, which I'm already good at, which is like, you know, form a little bit of a business. Like, that stuff's, especially in Utah, really easy to get an LLC. And then it was like, build a website. Obviously, like, I know how to do that with software developing, and I did it in like the easiest way possible. Like, honestly, I say that, but it's like anybody could build a website the way I did. I just like literally went on GoDaddy and I like used their free website building editor. Like, I didn't even do anything crazy. And then I signed up for a scheduling tool so that I could like embed a scheduler onto my website. And then all I had to do was like buy a lock. That's like a code lock. And so people just go onto the website, they schedule time. When I see their bookings come in, I generate them a code, I text them instructions. And so it's like super easy. And like you said, it's super affordable. And it's literally, there's no one else in Salt Lake City doing it. There's people in other markets that do it. Like out in LA, there's a group called Pirate Studios, and they have like, it's so cool. Like, my dream is to do what they do. Like, I kind of modeled a lot of it after them, but they have like an entire building where they have a bunch of rooms with the same sort of setup, just a room with CDJs, a speaker that's just set up for you to go practice DJing and to record. And like, I see them post online, like they'll have like 5 of their rooms and they'll just do open deck night, where it's like, they'll literally just have like 50 people there, all kind of going into all the different rooms, DJing and like having fun. And that's kind of the dream and the ideal of where I would want to go with it. But yeah, like, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, damn, this could actually kind of be a successful thing. And like, you know, we're not getting rich by any means off of it, like, especially for how cheap we do it. But it's enough that it's like, we're paying rent and like, we're paying off some of the equipment. And also, like, one of the things that I didn't totally anticipate that's come along with it is like, a lot of people ask me to throw shows now. And so they're like, hey, go throw a show at Boomerangs. Like, you have the equipment, you even have speakers. Like, we want to throw this show. Can you like basically put it on for us? And so now I've put on like 4 different events just through the space. I have another one that I'm collabing with a local promoter named Fook on March 1st. We're throwing a show. And then I also am working with, which is really cool, this guy that does Yellow Brick Road Tour, which is like basically a DJ competition that is sponsored by Dance Festopia. And so he tours all around the country. And he gets local DJs to basically apply for this competition, has them come out, has them DJ, and then like one or two DJs get the opportunity to then go play at Dance Festopia. And my friend Zach, who does the Artist Invitational, Zebra, he told me about it last year, and I applied and I played, and it was awesome. It was a ton of fun. And then Zach ended up winning, and he went to Dance Festopia, and that was his second time winning, and got to go play out there on a really cool stage. And this year, like they weren't going to do it in Utah, and I saw that, and I was kind of bummed about it because it was like so cool for me last year, especially right as I was getting into playing live shows. And so I just emailed him, and I was like, hey, like I see you're not coming to Utah. Why not? And he's like, oh, we don't have like a local promoter or local venue. And I was just like, I'm your guy. Jumped on a call with him, and now like in April, we're gonna be doing the event. And so it's like some of those things that like initially when I created the space, I was like kind of particular about like I don't want to do promotion, but it's just sort of like fallen into my lap where it's like, why wouldn't I guess, you know? And so that's kind of like I guess once you get the CDJs, like it's almost inevitable that people are going to want to use them for shows, right? And so that's been a really cool kind of progression of it as well. But yeah, my ultimate goal is like buy a building, have a building that has like multiple rooms of CDJ setups for practicing, and then also have like a warehouse space that you can throw private events in and do like after parties, invite traveling DJs to come through. Like that's one of my biggest goals is like I would love it if like some big headliner was coming into town and I could convince them to come to the space and like do a studio session at the space or come to a meetup and like talk with people that are in the local scene. And like the big emphasis behind the space is community. And that's why like we do it so cheap and we make it as affordable as possible is because like I want to build this awesome, vibrant community of like-minded people that love music, love DJing, love producing. And I want to bring them all together and be this big, huge, awesome family in Salt Lake City. And I feel like there's a lot of people that are already doing that, but the space has something special and something unique about it because it's very open of like, hey, you want to get into this, come here and like, we'll help you do that. And I feel like that's one of the things that was like extremely valuable about SLDP is sort of that intangible aspect of like, I went to SLDP, now I feel like I'm kind of a part of it. And like I've met people that are also like a part of it. And so that's like what I want the space to be. I want it to be able to be kind of that trampoline that it's like come into the space, like meet other people at our shows and like use that as your springboard to start playing shows around Salt Lake City, essentially.
The space as a full-fledged venue is a dream that I'd love to see realized.
Yeah, that would be sick.
Let me take a moment to describe the beauty of this machine in my own words, right? So it's like, number one, you've got access to the equipment, so you can get really good at it. Number two, you can bring that service. It's like it's a gift to the community. Like you said, the affordability is a huge selling point because, like, you know, we just spent like a fat minute talking about expenses, and like you only have so much budget to devote to things like practicing, for example. So to be able to offer that to people is a reward of its own. But then also you have the equipment secured, and like that at that point it establishes you at almost like the center of a hub where like, hey, I know a guy who can get us CDJs. We can throw an event.
Yeah.
So it's like it's the gift that keeps on giving. And
I think that one thing that also like I didn't totally consider at first when I started it, I was just like, oh, it's access to the awesome equipment, but also it's a space where you can just be fucking loud. Like a lot of people in Salt Lake live in apartments or they live in townhomes or they live next to neighbors that are annoying as fuck. And so it's like to be able to go somewhere and blast the music like loud as fuck, like they don't care there. Like you can be as loud as you want. The metal guys are in there going crazy, like being as loud as they want. You go in there and play your music super loud. Like that's actually extremely valuable. And I didn't totally consider that at first, but like having a space to be able to like play your tracks maybe as loud as you would hear them in the club is like really, really nice.
Beauty. I'm going to start bringing things to a close, but you have given so much useful information. I feel like I really appreciate you taking the time to show up and share this knowledge with other people so that they can help get it figured out. I think you've got a knack for identifying what has to be done to bring things to the next level. That's what I'm trying to deliver here. So I guess if I could bring this to a close, I want to know what's some takeaways, like what general advice that you would give to people starting out in this path. What do you think made the biggest difference for you?
Thanks, man. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on. Aaron is so fucking cool and he's an awesome producer and you fluffed me up and I really appreciate that. Like, sometimes I feel like it's like hard to sort of like take compliments, but I really appreciate you like having me on and getting to tell a little bit about my story, because like in all of the posts on Instagram and stuff that I make, like there isn't a ton of opportunity to really like talk about like my journey so far and like reflect on like what the last year has been. Like I do it all the time broing out with my guys, right? Like I like talk about, oh, this year's been so sick, we've done so much stuff. But yeah, I was really excited to like get to come in here and like kind of be public about it and be able to like hopefully give people like, you know, some advice, what little advice I can offer. But I would say like for anybody that's where I was like a year ago, first of all, like if you want to play live shows, get experience on the CDJs first of all. You know, make sure that like, or even if it's the XZ, just make sure that when you go into the club, you have your USB stick ready to play. And if you're asked to be on stage and play, that like you know exactly what you're gonna do, essentially. But the second piece of advice I would say is like, if you really want to play a live show, go seek it out. Like find somebody that's doing open decks. That's the first thing that I ever played. There was Electronic Continuum, which I already talked about. Like they did open decks, and I had like you know, the even concept of what open decks wasn't totally solidified in my mind until like after I had started getting into DJing. And my initial thought was like, oh, there's nobody around here that does it. But I think that if you're diligent and you keep looking into it, like you'll find the opportunities. And even if maybe it's not open decks, like go find somebody that's throwing small local events and either one, go out to them and go meet them in person, or two, at least ask them for a chance. Like I feel like that's a big thing that like me and my buddies have kind of had to get over, is like, what does it hurt to ask? And like, what's the worst that could happen? You could get a no, sure, or you could get ignored. But it's like at the end of the day, if you don't ask and you don't put yourself out there, like nothing's going to happen. And so like, as hard as it might be, if you're at that point that I was, like, just do everything in your power to try and push through that and to put yourself out there. And I think that like, there's something really noble about wanting to share with other people and wanting to be up on that stage. Like, sure, maybe people could say that there's some vain aspects to it. And it's like, oh, I'm the center of attention or whatever. But at the end of the day, like I see you and I know that like you just want to enjoy yourself and you want to bring that enjoyment to people around you. And that's why you want to do it. So like if you're where I was a year ago, like and you really want to play shows and you really want to get yourself out there, then just do everything in your power to find somebody that's going to give you a chance. And then once you have that chance, grasp it and squeeze all the juice out of it that you possibly can, you know? It's like you play that open deck show, like make it known. Don't be shy about it. Like tell people like, hey, I played this, or like post it on Instagram, post it on Facebook, post it on TikTok, whatever it is that you like, or whatever you want to dive into, then go and be vocal about it. And like, if you really want it, just like do whatever it's going to take to like, go make it happen is what I would say. Like, I feel like that's the best advice that I could possibly give, because there's not like one thing that I could say that's like going to change your life or going to make you like all of a sudden successful. But if you really want it and you want to do it, then you absolutely have the power to make that happen. You know, you listeners.
Beautiful. If I could summarize that to 3 points, I think it's like, get good, shoot your shot, and make it visible.
Exactly. That's it.
Where can people find you and what's coming up for you in the future?
Awesome. Yeah, go follow me on Instagram. That'd be the best. RUup. It's RYOU.UP. I do have a YouTube channel as well. I have some stuff posted there. I'm on SoundCloud. I'm on Spotify. On Spotify, it's RUup with a question mark at the end. RYOUUP question mark. As far as stuff coming up, I have a couple of shows coming up. February 20th, I'm going to be playing at the Cabin in Park City with DJ Susan, which I'm super stoked about. I'm a huge DJ Susan fan. If you guys don't know DJ Susan and you want some inspiration, go watch DJ Susan, because he literally, people call him the Tony Robbins of Tech House. He is one of the most inspirational, coolest guys ever. And the fact that I get to play with him is like, I mean, it fills my heart. And his record label, Hood Politics, is putting out some of the nastiest tech house of anybody out there right now. So that's February 20th. And then also on February 28th, it's kind of funny. I feel like I always get these shows and they're like right next to each other. But on February 28th, I'm playing at Sky in Salt Lake City with Arco, AR/CO. they have that song with K5, the Dead Mouse Cascade duo or project called Brightest Lights. I'm sure that like a ton of you guys have heard that song. It's a fucking banger. But yeah, really excited to get to play a set with them. It's going to be a little more progressive, a little more minimal. And, I've been kind of going heavy on the deep, like heavy bass house, like almost trap aligned. But I love to get into kind of that more deep, that more progressive. So really excited for that set as well.
Thanks so much for coming on. Are you up, everybody? Ryan, thank you for a fantastic interview. Till next time.
Absolutely.
Take it easy.
Hell yeah.